rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Mrs. Whiskey asked me one time, she's like, hey, why do you change your voice when you do that? And I'm like, well, it's because I think it's cool. You know, I think it's kind of cool, but whatever. Anyway, sometimes she can be a little critical of me. That's what, you know, your partners in life, your wife, whatever, does for you. All right. Yes, the long-awaited interview is here. We've got things working, cameras up, audio's up, everything's ready to go. And ironically, it actually came in rather quickly. So I got a little discombobulated trying to make sure that everything was up and running and everything was right and so on and so forth. And I just, so if I forget something, forgive me. Just saying. All right, tonight we have a perspective from a very special guest, but before I bring that special guest on, we of course have to do the standard stuff. So, first of all, let's go ahead and get the first thing underway here. Tonight is Nana of JJS is up for tonight's pledge. So, if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one. Like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Nana as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and of course, I thank you, Nana, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. You would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program. All you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, performing or reciting, either way, in your style. Then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I've heard it from a very heavenly source, rest in peace, my friend, that if you use share on your phone, if you're using your phone to do it, you can click the share button and that will do the same thing. So then share it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Not only do I have a special guest in the video, but and about ready to come on here in just a couple of more minutes, but we have a special guest in the chat, Barbie Guile. Welcome to the program. Welcome back to the chat. You can chat with the other Rumblers over there. And Sabo OH has popped in. Wow, boy, we've just got a packed house tonight. Packed house, all for the wonderful special guest that I have coming up in just a moment. But first, also, don't forget to remember, tonight is...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight, I'm drinking out of Buffalo Trace. There it is. The Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and we have it in the fantastic, the red, white, and blue, the wonderful, the beautiful, there it is, the TGRN, True Grit Roots Network glass. And by the way, there's the stones, because it takes stones to drink with whiskey, so there you go. All right. Got to get that requisite first sip in. Well, let's go ahead, since we're there, let's talk about TGRN, True Grit Roots Network. Our place on the web is tgrn.net. That's tgrn.net, where you can find our two channels, Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio and Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. You can listen directly through your browser. Right now, there's the two. You can see them on the screen. There's the two web widgets. You can just grab whatever one, hit those play buttons, and you can listen right through the browser on your phone or any place else. Or if you're like me and you love listening while you're working outside or whatever, and you have, of course, the bars, because obviously we have to have cellular connection for this. But you can go and download our app, and there it is right there. You can download either one of the apps. You can download them from the Apple Store, known as the App Store, or the Google Play Store, either one. And grab one, grab both. Hey, listen to each one, whichever one you feel like you want to do. And don't forget, too, that if you go up to the top of our, there you go, see that little red flashing light at the top of your screen? Yep, that's the connection to go to the shop. You can show your wonderful loyalty and pride and, you know, hey, I'm a Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio listener. You can grab a t-shirt or a hoodie or even a hat, or, well, they call them a cap. They're called caps now, I guess, not hats. Hats and caps are supposed to be different. Anyway, you can grab them with either the True Grit Roots Network logo, the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio logo, or, of course, the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio logo, and you can grab them. They've got them in different colors. I like the True Grit Roots Network logo in the black. You know, I've been trying to get after my my radio partner there to get the wonderful red, white, and blue, you know, this TGRN logo onto a shirt. And he said, absolutely. And that was like 6 months ago. So I'm going to have to hit him up again and say, hey, dude, what happened? You lose your mind? We got to put that on there. Anyway, head on over to shop.tgrn.net for that if you'd like. And, of course, go and check out TGRN. That stands for True Grit Roots Network. Go and check that out when you get the opportunity and take a listen. We would love it. TGRN.net. That is True Grit Roots Network based out of Austin, Texas. All right, folks, the time has come. Yes, it has come. We have a unique perspective. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you. You know, obviously, transgenderism has vaulted itself into the mainstream, especially here in America. We've had a lot of back and forth and arguments about it. We've had all kinds of challenges and issues. I mean, it's even imperviated into politics, where many politicians are even coming down on a certain stance. And obviously, we, as a part of the Whiskey Warrior P1s, we have someone who can give us a unique perspective on this entire situation. And that is none other than our Australian contingent, Becky. Now, let me go ahead and bring Becky on here. I got to make sure I unmute Becky, but here we go. Hello, Becky. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
All
Rick,
right.
and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Oh,
and hello, Whiskey Warriors, and all other listeners.
all right, there we go. So, I just want to make some clarification so you people aren't freaked out, all right? Because I know it's especially those on the audio portion of the program that don't have the benefit of the video piece, okay? And I just want to be clear. You are a biological male who lives your life as a woman. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly right.
All right. All right. So just want to make sure that that's clear. So we also understand too, and by the way, I just want to thank you. I mean, you're one of the early on Whiskey Warrior P1s, and you've stuck with me for a very long time through all of this stuff. And we've had conversations back and forth. And you in particular, you asked for this interview. And I'm assuming it was for a specific reason. So what I'm going to do right now then is I'm going to kind of get out of the way, and I'm going to let you sort of tell us your story. So go ahead.
Okay, where it basically started, I came out from Australia, from England to Australia when I was 6 years old. And I sort of had those sort of female feelings beforehand. Anyway, got to Australia and went through school and just continually try to shake these feelings, but went to a male school, or back then it was a all-male school. Things never changed. I went out and did male sort of jobs, shearing, rouseabouting. Well, rouseabout's mainly female now, but and then station work and stuff like that. And I still couldn't shake it. And then I went to, I came back to Mount Barker, WA, Western Australia, after my dad died, and that's when I started to make a decision to transition. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to still have respect for women, not like these, I won't say anymore. And I went through 10 years of psychology interviews and stuff like that. And then I got to a stage where, right, it's ready. The psychologist said, I think you're ready. You're the only one who's consistent. And back then, in about 2017, I said to him, well, you're going to have an influx of kids because of our Safe Schools program. And he said, oh, yeah. And then a year later, he just had an influx of kids coming through with wanting to change their sex. And then about 2017, he said, I think it's about time for you to transition, if you want to. I'll give you the okay. So anyway, I went and seen a psychologist after seeing, went and seen a doctor first who referred me to a endocrinologist and all that. And basically, I never looked back, but I always had the greatest respect for women. I never wanted to be on any bandwagon. I wanted to do it myself, my way, and I think it's left me in a different light, and I can honestly say that I have met people similar to me along the way, like on the internet, that don't like the left-wing narrative. And yes, closest thing people say, so how do you explain yourself? And I'll say, well, I was born a boy with a feminised brain. Because, look, to be honest, we both know that females and males can think differently. And some people have always thought that I think differently than other men, like before my transition. So I couldn't hide everything. But I never sort of dressed in public or anything like that until I decided to actually transition.
So just to ask a clarifying question, I'm going to let you continue, but I just want to ask a clarifying question here. So you have gone through the physical surgery, the physical alterations then?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
you have completed the entire transition. All right. Okay, so please continue.
Yeah, so, well, I get really frustrated with schools, governments, and that I think it's all right to brainwash their children, allow, because a kid left alone with gender dysphoria, most of them get over it following puberty or shortly thereafter. Now, all the experts, they came out with, like, feminisation of the brain happens shortly before birth. Whether that's true or not, the jury's still out of it, you know. But what I do know is I had a strong feeling with it, despite we've grown up with 3 sisters, and yeah, well, that gave me heaps of clothes to wear. But and a dad who was in the Navy. And me and my dad would never close, but I respected him. But he went out on submarine. I was always told I was the man in the house, and don't get me wrong, I try to be. But, you know, it was something that a lot of people don't understand, that what they're doing in our schools is nothing short of child abuse. It's, you know, and these kids, these teachers and these politicians who are doing this to kids should be held accountable. You know.
So I just want to bring up that stat that you had mentioned before, because I don't think a lot of people really fully understand what's going on here. So, I mean, and trust me, I don't want to even step into your realm to understand what you know, what you went through or what somebody like this went through. But in terms of actual statistical analysis, like you pointed out, the majority of teenagers, in particular teenagers, who go through this feeling of being in the wrong body generally tends to cycle itself out after they go through puberty and that. And one thing that I think a lot of people, you could obviously feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a lot of people don't seem to understand that going through puberty anyway is a whole bunch of like hormonal changes and everything else. There is just so much that is happening within the human body that having instances like what you're talking about and having kids being confused, it's kind of par for the course growing up. I mean, would you kind of agree with that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, kids, you know, one minute they want to be an Indian, next minute they want to be a cowboy, and then sometimes they want to be a cowgirl, and they think, oh, I'll dress up like my sister, and yeah, there's no problems. But, and look, I think it's fine for kids who suffer from gender dysphoria to experiment, dress up at home and stuff like that. But the moment they go out in the public life, you can be branded like that for life, and you can destroy any future relationships, and whether it be through work or anything like that. You know, some people say, oh, you're gay, and I go, I've already been down that path briefly, and that didn't do me, and that didn't do my partner, my potential partner, because he wanted a man who was a man, who loved being a man, not a man who wants to be a woman. So, you know, yes, some people are like that. Some people are bisexual. Some people, but you've got to get over that puberty first. You've got to get out that growing, that adolescence. You've got to spend time in your adult self before you make a decision. Mm-hmm. And look, who knows what part you go sterile? Because it's once you've had the knife, that's it. But it could be one year on cross-sex hormones, and then you're sterile. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the experts. But yeah, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, you had mentioned having these feelings early on in life, like early, you know, younger. So it remind me again. I mean, I know you you went through a lot of it, and my brain is trying to digest and like break some of this down. But when did you have this first feeling that things were not quite right? The way that, I mean, you know, the stereotypical correct kind of thing.
I reckon about 3.
Okay. So,
but you sort of you're a little toddler. you're not 100% sure, so you sort of just go along with it. You just go, and my sister didn't want me to wear her dress one time, and I refused to take it off, and she threatened to tell Mum and Dad, and I eventually took it off. But and then I thought to myself, well, I still remember knowing that I had to keep it a secret. Right. And so from then on, it was my secret. Mm-hmm. And I kept it secret to some people for 50 years, 40 years.
Yeah. So just to give you a statistic that I found, through a little bit of research, because that's kind of what I do, but 73% of trans women and 78% of trans men first experience gender dysphoria by age 7. So this is something that, as you just pointed out, you started from your memory back at age 3, having this kind of thought process that maybe something wasn't quite in the way that it should be. That sort of tends to support, these statistics tend to support that position, so to speak. And also, by the way, on average, transgender men, so this is, you just mentioned this, about it being your little secret. Well, on average, transgender men live with untreated gender dysphoria for almost 23 years, while transgender women spend an average of 27.1 years before seeking treatment. So that seems to be, again, you're following along with the statistics with all of this stuff. So now one thing, and you don't necessarily have to answer this if you're uncomfortable. We can move on past this. But one of the things that has been tied to gender dysphoria as a whole and transgenderism is this idea that because of all this confusion that you've got going on in your brain, that you tend to have, that these people tend to have suicidal thoughts. Did you ever experience that at all? Or was that, if you didn't, was it mainly due because of your family support structure, those kinds of things?
To tell you the truth, like I was about 10 years old, and this memory is like it was yesterday. And I nearly committed suicide because I had the house to myself, but and then it didn't work. And then I was about to do something else, and that didn't work. And then I woke up to me because my uncle, who was out harvesting at the time, came home. Mum and Dad were in town, so I think it was a Saturday morning, and my sisters were playing sport or whatever. So I had the house to myself, and back then, I don't know about America, but here in Australia, especially farmers, kids used to be left alone. We know how to look after ourselves, we know what to do when we see a snake, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, and I was really depressed in school, getting picked on, bullied. And then I said, it happened, and then my uncle came home, and I clicked. And I'm going to research about this, because back then we used to use what they call encyclopedias and stuff.
Right.
So I did that, and there was a lot of stuff around, and I thought to myself, well, I really can't do anything until I get over puberty. And I thought, yep, I just got to wait until I get over puberty, so I just do what I'm doing. And because I used to have the house to myself occasionally, I used to plan trips at times when I would dress up, times when I would do this. And dressing up was just a way out, just a relief, as it was. But, yeah. But then my suicidal thoughts after that had pretty much disappeared. But as I said to my endocrinologist, I said to him, well, depends what you call heavy drinking.
Yeah.
You wake up and you start drinking and you say, oh, I don't care. But in the end you do care, because you got back, even when I didn't have a family, I still had responsibilities. I became a footy coach, I did this. I became members of sporting clubs and stuff like that. But it was always in the back of my mind, and it never disappears, your past and who I am. So, yeah. And I said to my psychologist, one more thing, I said to my psychologist that I think this is one of the reasons why you see a lot of male suicides, is because they've got gender dysphoria and they've got strict fathers, strict family values and whatever against it. Then they've got a school that's trying to push it on them. Our schools in WA are a little bit different than the eastern states, like it's against the law for a parent to stop a kid transition in Victoria and other states, whereas in WA the laws aren't so strict. So but you see a few trans kids around, but I don't like calling them trans kids. You're not transitioning into anything, because you're still a kid, you know?
Right.
And
so that being said, I mean, let me just, I'm just going to be open and ask the question. So you've seen, obviously, watching the show, I've covered a lot of the idea of like men and women's sports, especially higher up in the collegiate level and those kinds of things. So, and I'll Sabo OH just asked this. I just want to classify this. When you say WA, you mean Western Australia. Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay. All right. Just making sure I got the terminology right. So, all right. So, all of that being said, you know, you've seen a lot of the men and women's sports and that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, just from my perspective, I mean, I was into what the British call football. I was into soccer, and we had soccer clubs that are essentially, up to a certain point, they're co-ed. It's like the boys and the girls, they play together. You know, let's be honest, they're not really playing soccer at that point, but that's for another day. But basically, the boys and girls play together. But then after a certain point, there is the separation of the boys' teams and the girls' teams. Given what you've gone through, and given the, you know, where you are today and that stuff, what are your thoughts and feelings about this idea of men and even men who identify as women in women's sports?
well, put it this way, I've always been against men playing women's sport in contact and physical exertion sports, 100%. It doesn't matter what sort of level. Now, in Australia, WA, it's when I was coaching, I had a girl that she had more guts than some of the blokes. And when they get to the age of 14, they have to stop playing boys football. And Aussie rules is pretty tough. But she wanted to keep playing, and then she went on to play women's AFL, because that's sort of taken off now in Australia. But as far as everyday sport, I'm totally against women, trans biological men playing women's sport. Now, I was going to play, I'd been invited to play darts, and at a lower country level, to me that's fine. Bowls, because I used to play lawn bowls. I probably might go back and play sometime.
Right.
Now, I could play quite easily independent side as a to save any arguments. Play.
Okay, you were breaking up there for a second. Anyway,
Could play as a substitute.
Okay.
So without any arguments, I could play in the females competition or the male competition without any arguments. But as far as physical or contact sports, running, jumping, whatever, yeah, no. And I've always been against that. And to save a lot of things, it's better if they just, find your own thing to do.
Right. Right. Okay, that's that. Hey, I'm good. Good on you for how that works out. Okay, so let me ask you this. So now that you've gone through this and you have experienced what you've experienced, and excuse me, I'm trying to phrase this in such a way so that we can I can get the answer the answers to the question to make sure I phrase the question correctly. If you had the opportunity, and you actually do right now, but if you had the opportunity to speak with somebody who, let's say, was just under adult age, late teens, who is going through this similar thought processes, what would be the advice that you would potentially give them?
Well, I'd have to talk with them first, but I'd also like to find out their history and stuff like that. But I'd say, well, it's better off for you to wait. Just wait a few years. And look, that's a very hard question to answer because there is a lot of, you don't know the child's history, you don't know if they've had years of abuse or anything like that. So you don't want to say, yes, don't do it, no, stay away, don't listen to your doctors, because the doctors, every doctor I talk to in Western Australia would not help a kid, or that's what they told me. They wouldn't help a child or minor start to transition until they were over 18. And in Australia, you cannot have bottom surgery until over the age of 18. So they won't see anything, and then the time you've been on insurance for a year and you've that and the waiting list, you probably won't get to have the operation until you're 19. But you can have, now I don't know this is 100% true for all states, but a girl who's transitioning can have their breast removed at 15 with the permission of one parent, which I reckon is wrong. Personally, I don't believe in any of a kid should not undergo any form of transitioning. But the trouble is, these kids are just brainwashed.
Right.
Like teachers, educators, as some people call them, or teachers, come into a classroom and say, "Oh, you can be a girl if you want." It's wrong. They're there to teach them. That's it.
Right.
Maths, English and science. And schools haven't been doing that for, last 10, 20 years especially.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you see in Australia, do you see a lot of use of like puberty blockers? Because that's a big contention here in America. Do you see a lot of people or do you hear about in the news down there? Do you hear about, kids being put on puberty blockers and things like that?
You are my news.
Ah, okay.
I mean, seriously. No, I mean, you're my international news.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see the odd kid walking around town that's going through, obviously using puberty blockers. But most of those kids, because they get a hard time at school, because some schools, like the kids are kids, they're going to pick on someone, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much everybody, even those on the regular side, we all got bullied. I mean, I got bullied. I got bullied as a kid for different reasons, but anyway.
That's my mixing bourbon.
Oh,
bearded
okay.
lady.
Ah, bearded lady. Okay. All right.
I mean, I don't get offended by anything, except being called sir, because sir is not a big thing in Australia. Well, it is now because of all the immigrants, but sir was used for people of importance.
Right. Okay.
But we use mate.
Quite a bit,
So
I would imagine. So I'm going to ask this question, and I want you to kind of think for a second about it first. But considering your position, considering where you've come from, considering all of your life history on this, have you ever considered putting this down on paper and writing a book about your experiences to be able to share it?
Yes, I have. I found a lot easier than speaking about it than reading about it. That's part of the reasons why I'm doing this. But I did an interview in 2021 with Senator Malcolm Roberts, who is partly American or lived over in America. He's a Queensland senator. About kids waiting. That's on my Facebook and Twitter page. Yeah, I started doing it when we had lockdowns. I started doing it, but I started because I had to take 10 months off work because I refused to have the booster. And I did a lot of drinking, a lot of soul searching, tried to write a book, and I just, get halfway through and write a page and screw it up and go, yeah, no, that didn't sound right. I'd probably like someone to help me do it.
So let me ask you this, because that's an interesting. Let's angle off here. Let's follow this rabbit trail. What do you mean by you would want somebody to help you do it? Are you looking for like an editor or a ghostwriter or something like that, or what are you looking for?
Oh, so somebody who can, because I'm not one for writing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate writing, but I'd rather write than type. I can't type to save my life. But yeah, no, someone like ghostwriter, somebody who could listen to my speaking and sort of jot it down, and then we just go through it and through it and through it till we sort of happy. But yeah, I'll probably get around to it one day, and hopefully sooner rather than later, because we are still going to have this problem. Mm-hmm. While you still got left, and like us, while you've still got left-wing states, and until you get rid of the bureaucrats and the people that run government out of the way,
Right.
and I can understand why Trump fired everyone, because and don't get me wrong, I can understand why Trump's done what he's done.
Right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a little extra step here. And I'm going to attempt to encourage you to put a little more effort and priority to this. And the reason why, and bear with me here for just a second, but the reason why is literally because of this. So this chart that I'm showing right now is a chart that goes back from 2017 up to 2021, and I'm kind of covering up the 2021 section. And this came from Reuters, which obviously is an international newspaper, or I should say media outlet. But if you take a look here on this chart, and I know for those who are going to listen to the audio portion later, you're not really fully being able to see this, but in 2017, there was roughly 15,172. That's the exact number of youth that were identified with a gender dysphoria diagnosis. That increased to 18,321 the following year. Then the next year, that increased to 21,375. Now, keep in mind, this is just in the U.S. now. This isn't worldwide. Then in 2020, that increased to 24,847. Well, then we had a almost doubling between 2020 and 2021, up to 42,167 that were identified as having or being diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I am basically going to use this chart as an indication. I think that your story, your perception, your perspective is something that I think a lot of these young people who are coming into this world with, things like TikTok, the social media aspect, and yes, it's become an exposure now, mainly potentially due to social media, but to be able to have some sort of a reference or a resource that someone has gone through this and has the perceptions and the information that you have, I think personally that would definitely help for a lot of people, I think. So I'm just going to say you should probably do it. Find yourself somebody there, or even, you could maybe even get somebody who isn't quite in Australia who might be able to help you out and be able to get this, because I think this is a story that, and a really a book that needs to be written. It really does. And so I would encourage you to put that more on the front burner, from my perspective. But then again, I am who I am. So there you go. But I would put a little push to that. So
I'll take it on notice. I'll take it on notice.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, there's just a couple of things that people has happened. Because when I was started my transition, I talked to people, and I talked to people that had gender dysphoria as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then they got to puberty, and they actually told me, they said, no, I've just lost the urge to transition or think about it. And then I also was talking to adults that were experienced what I was going through, sort of, but I don't know how strong or how not. And once I told them what I went through, or you go through, all the tablets and stuff like that, and the appointments and the surgery, oh no, they just stop talking to you, because they know that they're probably not ready for it, because it's something you've got to be committed to. You can't sort of, look, I can understand when somebody walks into a shop dressed as a woman but having a beard, you're going to still be called sir, of course, and stuff like that, because you're just a transvestite. You're not committed. You don't, you're not clean shaven. You're not, how can I say it? You make no attempt.
Right.
And so, I mean, people have to understand the fact, like, it's, to me, it's common courtesy, or you find out how people respect you on what they call you. You know, if somebody calls me he, I don't care. I don't care. I know I'm quite happy if they do. They call me she, it's all right too. I don't care. But when they go out of the way to call you sir, I know they're just doing it to pee me off. I don't get upset when the elderly call me sir, because they're the elderly. They've got dementia. They've got things. And at the end of the day, like, I know I don't wear my name badge when I'm working, because with Becky on it, they ask me my name, I tell them, and I say, well, I'm a trans. Oh, that's nice. But I don't wear my name badge because I work at night, and at night, aged care can get pretty rough because of residents with dementia walking around and stuff like that. They can get aggressive and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's
perfect. So, so I do have a question for you. We're going to kind of backtrack a little bit. This goes back to the whole idea of, men and women's sports and that kind of stuff. We didn't touch on, and I kind of want to, in terms of the feeling of, like, especially in the teenage years, okay, when you have kids who are in the situation where they feel like they're gender dysphoric, maybe they haven't been diagnosed, but they start with the idea of, like, hey, I'm a guy who feels and acts like a girl, so I can go into, say, the girls' spaces, girls' locker rooms, girls' changing rooms, vice versa too. I mean, girls feeling like they're a boy going into the boys' locker rooms and the boys' changing rooms. What are your thoughts on that kind of situation? Because you've made it clear that as far as you're concerned, with kids, you just let kids be kids. And that kind of makes an interesting thought process, if you will, for this kind of situation. How do you feel about those kinds of ideas?
Well, I'm sort of old-fashioned too. I do believe that girls should use girls' toilets and boys should use boys' toilets. And most places got a disabled toilet. I don't know. We didn't at school, but you could have gone to change somewhere else. There's, but yeah, no, I'm sort of against boys going into women's change rooms and vice versa.
Okay.
And I don't care what their thought process is. Even thinking back to my time, I don't know, we had more respect back then. You respected women's spaces, you respected, and vice versa, women respected men's space.
Right.
But yeah, for me personally, if you're uncomfortable going into your biological gender change rooms, well, you have to go somewhere else.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. I mean, sure, if things were different, yes, but they're not. You've got to face the facts. And I think that's, I don't mean it to say to a young boy who wishes he was a girl, look, it's only for a short time until you can start your transition if you still want to.
Right.
But you till then, and even after then, because I was invited by women from young and old, from probably both sides of politics, to use the women's toilets.
Mm-hmm.
Back then they had no problems, and then I just, no, I can't do it. I did it for a while, and then I said, no, I can't do it. And they said, no, you and I said, no, it's not that. It's disrespecting women's space. And yes, I have used a women's toilet when the disabled toilet was taken, but no one was there. I just walked in, walked out again. And that's the thing, you've got so many different types of people around now who are perverts and this and that, and even in country towns in Australia, we have people like that. We got governments that are sitting on their hands. They don't like discussing where pedophiles live.
Right.
When they get out of jail and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, me personally, I actually, in terms of the bathroom situation, I was doing a job for a customer, and I went into their, their space as it was being built and that kind of stuff. They had what I think is the greatest situation and the greatest solution, honestly, for this entire situation. Rather than having gender-specific bathrooms, what they had was they had a series of like 15 doors that went into, and obviously they were lockable, but they went in there, you go in there, and it's basically just the toilet is sitting right there. And so you could go in, it was like a stall, in a standard, what I would consider a standard bathroom, but it was open to the public. In the center area was the hand washing space. And so everybody, male, female, whatever, it didn't matter. You all washed your hands in the exact same sink. There wasn't this separation. You would just walk into this space. You would go into the stall, lock the door, do whatever you were doing in there, and then you'd leave and you'd wash your hands. You could be standing next to a woman or a man or whatever. And I personally think that like that just resolves the problem, because now it makes it to where, it doesn't matter. Sort of like the idea of the disabled or the family restroom or whatever. Why not just make them all that way? That way you don't have this conversation.
Well, you can in like in adult life, you can have that, but at schools you can't. I mean, because you get people hanging around the toilet, kids hanging around the toilet, because in Queensland they had one of their latest schools, which was a up 10-story school, and they had unisex toilets for the kids.
Right.
And there was such an uproar on Twitter or X. I don't know so much about Facebook, and and I tried to follow up to see if it was happening in any of the new schools in Perth or anything like that, but wouldn't tell me. But yeah, I'm sort of fine in adult. Like a lot of places have got, like shopping centres have got. Our local shopping centre has got a unisex toilet.
Right.
But yeah, in schools I disagree with having something like that.
Okay. All right.
There's too much of a risk, and young girls, they like their privacy. I grew up with 3 sisters. They like their privacy.
Yeah, I have a sister as well, and yeah, they do. They really do. In terms of the privacy. All right. So let me ask you this. And I'm kind of looking to see if there's something. So in terms of the idea of approaching and attempting to get the treatment. So you waited, and then you said you had to wait for like an entire year before you could even become eligible. Is that a law requirement, or is that just you?
No, you have to spend the insurance company before they will start paying up will be a year.
Okay.
Now the surgeon I'd seen, I wasn't going to go overseas over to Thailand or anywhere because I wanted the best in Australia to have my surgery, and he won't do it unless you've got, even if I had heaps and heaps and heaps of money, they won't do it unless you've got insurance, because there are a million and one things that could go wrong, and lucky for me, there wasn't much that went wrong, and there wasn't really anything. It was more on my part. But it was very minor. It was easily solved, and
right.
Yeah, but yeah, and see, years ago it used to be you had to do 3 years of psychology and psychiatric interviews.
Right.
And then before you can even qualify to start going on cross-gender hormones. That's what it used to be like. Now it's, no, you're right, you little Johnny, you can be Donna soon. You know, it was, that's how easy it is in Victorian schools. Now I'll probably serve with a court summons, but because that's what the left use for weaponry. But yeah, I'm totally against like not having a standard like 18. When you get to 18, you can start your cross-gender hormones, stuff like that, or your 3 years of, so by that time you're 21, and then you're 21, you can start your cross-gender hormones. So you're 23, 24, and by that time, because you know how they count a detransitioner? They count them as a successful transitioner. I got that from somebody on the inside. And,
really?
Yeah.
So how many, speaking of detransitioning then, how many do you think have gone through the surgery or have been like up to the edge of the surgery and been like, no, actually I've changed my mind? Do you have any idea?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very hard to get figures. Google, yeah, well, yeah, it's very hard to get figures. Now, before my surgery, and I was cutting it fine, and they didn't accept my I had to get a proper psychologist note, which was WPATH accepted,
okay,
which they didn't. So I had to get one from another psychologist, and to get that over to the surgeon. Now, I probably could have if they okayed it, but because of COVID, Victoria got locked down, because that's Melbourne I went for my surgery. So they, I had plenty of time to get a proper note from my psychologist and get it to them to say, which was accepted by WPATH.
Right.
But you know, you gotta wonder, like they won't accept me, who went through 10 years of psychology interviews and stuff like that, but they'll accept a 18-year-old kid that's been on puberty blockers, and then they've been on cross-sex hormones, and then they've had their breasts removed. You know, you can imagine, realistically, their mind's not with it. But and then all of a sudden they have the surgery, and then they go, "Oh, I regret that." Well, you can't do anything now, except it's a lifelong of being on drugs, and that's what they want, pharmaceuticals.
Right. So let me ask you this, from your perspective, and especially given, and I'm just given the time that you have spent in this, how do you feel, or what does it make you think in terms of how all of a sudden it seems like we've had, you know, I showed you that chart, we've had like an almost doubling or a tripling just in the last, let's say, 5 years of people who identify, because if, for an example, right now I have a stat that shows, you know, approximately 1.4 million Americans identify as transgender, with about 0.6% of adults experiencing gender dysphoria. You know, this seems to be, to somebody looking at it from the outside and just looking at statistics, this almost seems like there might be something in terms of the additional bump, that there could be a potential like social media aspect or a peer pressure kind of scenario for this. How, do you kind of feel the same way, or do you think that maybe I'm wrong on that thought process? I mean, just go ahead.
Well, I think most of it comes back to education departments, most of it. And then you've got the encouragement through social media, doctors, left-wing activists, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like I've talked to people, like as soon as I mention that I'm against kids transitioning, okay, what? Because that's another person I'd like to touch on, my anaesthetist. She operated on some high-profile Australians, and she said to me, she said, "You're a conservative. We don't get conservatives in here." And I said, "Well, I won't." But yeah, it's a lot like social media. It's got a bit to do with it, but it starts, yeah, much younger than that. And we're just about to go through our social media ban for kiddies, which they will work their way around. And I might just have to get a VPN or something like that. But
so you
how can we stop it?
Just to try to clarify. So you actually think that maybe, and not all of this, but a certain portion is potentially due to the position that places like the educators, the left-wing media, the social media, and the prevalence of this being out there. You're of the opinion that they are contributing to this bump, that this isn't actually like people that are really really affected by gender dysphoria, that this is more of a potentially a for lack of a better term, sort of like a social contagion. Is that what I'm hearing from you then?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. To me, there's three types of to me, there's three types of gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
There's what gone through and still go through, and it is never going to go away. Then you got the people like me, but they get to puberty and they get over it. Then you've got the man-made gender dysphoria. And I started using that term probably a couple of years ago, and then somebody else picked up on it. Somebody high profile, doctor. So yeah, a lot of the gender dysphoria we are seeing are man-made. And thinking of what's his name's that bloke who did about what is a woman.
Oh yeah,
that bloke
Matt Walsh. Mm-hmm.
Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
I've seen a part of that show online, and they get interviewing tribes, Africa or whatever, and yeah, they don't have trouble with gender dysphoria. Yeah, well, they might not. They might not visibly have trouble with gender dysphoria because they don't see anybody that's got the balls to come out and say, I've got gender dysphoria, or I'm going to dress up like a girl, or whatever, and who says anything about a tomboy? A tomboy, is just a female version of me,
right.
Basically. But I wanted to go that one step further, But then there's some tomboys that get over being tomboys and quite happy,
See, now it's interesting that you mentioned that. So, for an example, my daughter, who is an adult now, she wanted to do everything that her older brother did. But the difference was she wanted to look good doing it. So we had so many dresses that she would wear and just get mud and sap and, tree sap. She'd climb trees. She'd run around in the mud. I mean, she didn't care. We had so many of these, the little girl frilly things that just ended up with, mud stains and everything else because of it. And, my wife and I, we didn't care because it really didn't matter. It was to us, a kid's going to be a kid, let the kid. And again, my daughter grew up around my son and his friends. She didn't really have a lot of interaction with other girls. But at the same time, though, here she is, she's, an adult now. And oh my gosh, she has got to, she is, as far as your stereotypical girl, she's got to look good. She's got to have, the proper clothes. She's got to match them up together. She's always got to look good. She does like the hair and the makeup and all of that other stuff. And so to me, it's like, I'm a lot like you. It's when they're kids, just let them be kids. I mean, if my son played with, not played with dolls, but he played with a lot of toys that were, action figures. You want to call them an action figure or a doll? It doesn't really matter. Stuff like that. So yeah, I understand what you're saying in terms of, to kind of circle this back. I understand what you're saying in terms of, yes, there likely is a significant portion of what we're seeing today in terms of actual, potential challenges or potential diagnoses down the road. But the fact of the matter is that much of what you're seeing, especially with it being in the limelight as it is, could potentially also be, like you said, the ones that are that third category. And I forgot what you titled them, but the third category in there. So yeah. So I just want to say in terms of you and I, you essentially identified yourself to me very quickly. You pretty much said, hey, this is who I am. And so I want to make sure that you understand, number one, I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but boy, everybody in the Rumble chat has been extremely supportive of you in this decision, in the fact that you are willing to come on and have a frank conversation about all of this. Yeah, everybody is very supportive of you. You obviously have, thought a lot about your position, and I sincerely applaud you for where you have come, where you have been, and your decisions. And pretty much, like I said early on, was that, hey, you once you're an adult, you're pretty much an adult. You can do kind of whatever you want at that point, within reason, as long as you're not necessarily, at least in my view, my personal view, you're not infringing on me. I'm not going to infringe on you. We both have our lives. You just go and do your thing. So yeah, it's just, I just wanted to let you know that I think this has been very enlightening, and I do appreciate you taking the time and the desire, to come ahead and do this. So, anyway, so is there anything else that maybe you want to cover? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I heard.
Yeah,
well,
I do. I have. All right. I do have one more comment really to make.
Oh, please.
Because I went and had a chat to my local member, Rick Wilson, who is a conservative, and he actually is in one of the largest electorates in the world. And it goes all the way from Albany all the way up to Dampier and covers all central Western Australia, which is a huge area. And I went and caught up with him a few months back, and he said, "You are the only trans that I can sit down and have a chat to." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because," and I stopped him and I said, "Because I don't get triggered, because he can't have a conversation with them because they just get triggered." Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, I went to an LBGTI quiz night, had a great time, met some nice people, but they are so hurtful. They hate Christian conservatives. There's so much hate in the room. They can't stand Trump. They couldn't stand Margaret Court, who's our famous tennis player. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, "Oh, so you don't like me then?" And they go, no. My table said, "We love you." And I'm going, "Yeah, but..." Look, and yeah, I never went to another one. I wanted to go, but I don't think they really wanted me there,
Right.
Because the left in America, except and the left in Australia are similar, except but they get so triggered. You can't even have a conversation. There's a lot of people that on my workplace and stuff like that, who don't care for much of politics. They don't, you talk to them, and so if everything's working well for them, they're going to vote for the person in power. Yeah, they don't understand all the issues.
Right.
And I think more people should get involved in politics, because what we personally are going through now, if we don't do something, we're going to lose everything. Not just our freedom of speech, but yeah, our right to drive our cars wherever we want and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've got to say, your experience with the left is not that much different than mine. Mainly just because of the fact that it seems as though the left seems to have this serious problem with anybody who does not think like they do. And, if you don't espouse their viewpoints out of your mouth, and it doesn't take much. It's usually like just all you have to do is, tweak a little bit of their thought processes. And yeah, all of a sudden they're just like, they immediately glom onto that. And so toward that end, let me ask you this. You've kind of already touched on it, but in your life experience with this whole thing, and being as open as you are about things, which side would you say is more welcoming? The conservative side or the left, progressive side?
The right. The right is way more welcoming than the left. It's no hesitation. The left, they look like they're welcoming, but you dive into them for half, and they are the most hateful. You're sure you get a lot of people that are centrists, and they're very welcoming too. So you've got to be careful of those people, not to hurt, because they are very welcoming people. But once you get to the left, far left, but apparently I'm on the far right, so I wouldn't understand, because being a trans is my only crime. Well, I'm happy with that. The right by far, or the conservatives, and I have met a few left-wing conservatives. We've had a few left-wing conservatives in politics, but the right, the left is getting further and further left, and
So in terms of the left in Australia, you said that there were similarities, but they're not exact. Based on what you've seen, in terms of my description on this show, things that you've seen on social media, where are the differences between, the Australian left and the American left?
Well, you probably get, it's hard to say, but because we're like, a lot of the country is similar. A lot of what we go through and stuff like that, farming, stuff like that. We work in kg, you work in miles, who cares? But I think the biggest difference between our left and your left is ours are juniors. They're just,
not quite sure I understand. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you've got Mandani, and we had Daniel Andrews. Now, Daniel Andrews is friends of the Chinese. He tried to install Belt and Road into Victoria. That got knocked back by our Prime Minister. But I think it's just the numbers, and your left is a lot more violent. A lot of our crimes and violent crimes extend purely from our immigration, like our gangs.
Okay.
And people who haven't been. And look, I work with Indians and Filipinos, and they are lovely people. And most of them, I think, are Christians.
Okay.
I don't care if they're Muslims too, but they, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
well,
we're just a junior version of America.
Okay. Junior version of America. All right. Well, I can.
You're a big brother.
Oh, we're. Well, depending upon which way you want to go with that. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read the book or read the book 1984, which has Big Brother in it.
Yes.
That's George Orwell. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
just. Anyway, all right. Well, as a parting note, if there's anything else that you want to say, I'm going to give you the floor. The last thing to say about it. But once again, I do appreciate you taking the time, coming on the show, and obviously this is, in my opinion, this has been a great interview. I think everybody has enjoyed it. So thank you very much. So here you go. Last thing, you've got the last comment on the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you, Whiskey, for giving me the opportunity. And I'd like to thank the Whiskey Warriors and Barbie Girl and all that for coming on. And listening to me and giving me the time and being so kind to me, which I know you are. But yeah, what else can I say? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You have a great rest of your day, because I think, if I recall correctly, this is your morning. Is that correct?
Yeah, and yes, and I'm going to do a few jobs, and then I'm going to go and have a sleep because I'm working tonight.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll let you go ahead and do that. So you have a great rest of your day, and looking forward to seeing you again on the chats and everything else. You're definitely more than welcome. I know everybody loves you. So so you have an excellent part of your day, and again, I thank you very much for your time, and I do appreciate it. So you have a great day.
Right. All right. Thanks, Whiskey.
All right. Okay. Whew. What an interview, folks. That was definitely a enlightening experience. And I'm not being, facetious here. That to have the opportunity to talk to somebody who is as open as Becky is about the situation and what they have experienced and go through every day, I think is a fantastic opportunity. And when Becky approached me with that, I had to get on it. I know it took me a little bit to kind of arrange things and that kind of stuff, but I do appreciate the wherewithal that it took to get to this position, because you guys don't know. Becky had to go to like somebody else to get some proper gear or something. I don't know exactly what happened on that side, but anyway. All right, so we've got a few minutes left. I just want to cover a couple of things. First of all, obviously the Democrats and the leftists are celebrating today because to them, they won all kinds of freaking races. Oh my gosh, they won all sorts of stuff. And this is a memorandum against the right and against Trump and so on and so on. Folks, let's dial it back a little. First of all, New York City with Mamdani, the Marxist terrorist sympathizer Mamdani. That is a enclave of Democrat. And he was able to say the right things for the right people to be able to get elected. What's going to matter is the moving forward. What's going to happen with all of his position in terms of what is he planning on doing and how is he going to do it? Because his idea of taxing the rich, yeah, that's probably not going to fly, because the top 1% of the wealth in New York covers like 25% of the tax base right now. And believe me, they're planning on moving. So even if you get a few millionaires who decide to stick around, they are not going to be able to tax everybody to the point that they can, they're not going to be able to tax everybody and get to the point where they're going to be able to hand everything out for free. Okay, it's just not going to happen. And so what we're most likely going to see over the next several years in New York is essentially a destruction of New York. Now, moving to places like Virginia and New Jersey, they elected governors, Democrat governors. And in terms of Virginia, they pulled along that AG who, literally wished death on the speaker of their delegate house and his children. Folks, I'm just telling you, almost every place that got quote unquote won has been a Democrat enclave, is a leftist enclave. Not one position, not one place, not one state, not one proposition or referendum that is been won by the left was unexpected. If a conservative had won in those states, that would have been an upset. That would have been a complete upset. So don't take this as, everything, believe me, the left-wing media is going to try and make this into oh, this is a referendum against Trump. No, don't think that. Don't think that. Trust me, there is a big difference between 2026 and especially 2028. And I got to tell you, it's going to be interesting between now and then. That's all I got to say. Going to be interesting. So let them have their day in the light, because as of right now, there is this huge thing that's in the SCOTUS right now that could change everything for 2026. And that is the whole redistricting and using race-based redistricting. Once SCOTUS decides on that, if they go the way that everybody is believing that they might, given their propensity to knock down things like affirmative action, that's going to change the political landscape for essentially years to come, because that's going to change the methodology by which the Democrats have been using in order to redistrict out Republican representation in blue states. And so this is going to be, again, this is going to be very, very interesting to watch over the over the next several years. So hang on to your hats, folks. Hang on to your seats. Keep your seatbelt fastened, and let's go and check all of this out. And I'm telling you, don't be down, don't be sad, don't be upset that Prop 50 passed. I'm sure it's going to get challenged in court. Don't worry. And for those of you who live in Florida and Tennessee and all of these conservative states that are about to get an influx of New Yorkers, man, just be ready, be prepared. That's all I got to say. All right. Real quick, Sabo, thank you ever so much for the Rumble rant. I do appreciate that. That was fantastic. I do appreciate that. And no, you can't necessarily thank me. That new perspective was all thanks to Becky, our wonderful Whiskey Warrior P1 guest on the program. Well, don't get all excited about this, but I got another special guest coming up on Saturday. And I got to tell you, this is going to be a person that you're going to want to hear from. I'll give you more details in the coming couple of days, but you're going to want to come back. You think that this interview was spectacular? I'm going to have another one on Saturday. So make sure that you join in on the Saturday show for that. That is all that I have for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I'm hoping all of them will be thumbs ups for Becky. But thumbs up, thumbs down if you really have to. And then, of course, if you're 3 Chevy, don't forget the thumb sideways. Across all my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening. Oh, wow, boy, Sabo OH is in a really good mood. Just gave me another Rumble rant. Thank you so much, Sabo. So that one, of course, is for Becky. So, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get that to Becky, but yeah, it would be interesting if I could. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.